So I'm Brian Parks, I'm the CEO here at JamFactory, and let me start by acknowledging that we are on Kaurna land and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and to any First Nations people that might be here. And particularly so this weekend that so many fabulous First Nations artists and arts workers are here in Adelaide, Brumper gathering across the road. It's a real treat and great to see so many people from outside of the little JamFactory family. Kenji, you've pulled a good crowd, and it's a real treat to have Kenji here. And I want to thank and acknowledge the Art Gallery of South Australia with the fabulous exhibition Japanese Form that features Kenji's work and is a great show and a real tour de force of post-war and contemporary ceramics that Russell Kelty's put together with great support from some private lenders. Kenji is a phenomenally talented ceramic artist, and I've enjoyed following the progress of his work for some years now, having done a studio visit up in Queensland probably in 2005 or 6 or something like that. I feel like it's a damn long time ago. And it's a real treat. I know he did a talk yesterday at the Art Go that was popular, and so you're all in for a treat. So without any more rubbish from me, Kenji Uranishi, thank you.
First of all, I wanted to say thank you for the JamFactory for me to be able to talk to you guys, and Stephanie, thank you for driving, picking me up from airport and make this process very friendly and relaxing. I like it. I like visiting this state. I only walking short distance around here, but I'm just happy just walking around, looking at the different building and different people. And thank you for coming, everyone. Some ceramic people and maybe some non-ceramic people. And this is not about my ceramics. More like how I grew up. So hopefully you can enjoy listening. How I survived. My life until now, I guess. So my name is Kenji Uranishi. I'm a ceramic artist, but when I was little, I grew up in I don't know if you've been to Japan, but the prefecture called Nara, which is a landlocked place, no ocean, surrounded by mountains. So you see, actually, mountain everywhere, and I was living in kind of a mount skirt of, little city called Sakurai, and it's so low key. There's no art, no such thing. I'm sure there was some, but when I was little, as a primary school student, I was very kind of excited about running around and discovering stuff from the outside, but difficult thing was learning process from school. Academic side of it was trouble, and the homework was like something I just wanted to ignore. So I had a lot of trouble learning and engaging for the academic side. But I was a happy boy, running around outside after the school or between the class. So I was kind of building up, nice, community in that school. But one thing I always did was making things. So instead of doing homework, on the way from school, often the tobacco shop had a little, section of, stationery for the school student, and I often bought cardboard paper with a grid on it, so you can cut, follow the line and then cut and then make some symmetric, form, and then you can fold and then curve and then put together with a sticky paper, and then you can make ship or war tank kind of thing. And then that was my homework. And the next day I bring it to the school and just show that, my outcome. And then people said, oh, can I take this home? And then I said, yes, you can take this home. So next day I make something different. And then one day my classmate, but she was very shy, quiet person, came to me and can I take this home? And that's when I thought, I'm going to make something forever. And this is that kind of tiny little thing just kept me feeling good energy. So I kind of found the space or place to belong in that situation. School wasn't the best place for me because I was having problem learning. But using my own favorite activity, I could find a place to belong. And it's quite long years. 6 years went by, and then junior high school I did more sports, but high school, I did rock band kind of thing. Punk was pretty popular, so I was into that kind of area as well. But after 3 years of in Japan, it's more like a American system. So after 6 years of primary school, you go to junior high school for 3 years, and then you go to different high school. You have to choose where you go, and I chose a school, especially kind of they're doing special program for the English, and I thought that was a very nice place to go because I was kind of interested in learning English, but because of my what's called credit, I could manage to enter that school, but I couldn't enter to that program, so it was kind of useless. But I found a nice friend, so formed some rock band instead of learning English. So after that, 3 years kind of went by so quick. But the last year of high school, I noticed that the people were talking about what you're gonna do after the high school, university, or go to the school. You can learn cooking or baking. There's a special school in Osaka. You can learn from the, be like a star chef teaching, special cooking for, after that, often people work for the very high-end hotel, or, you might run your own restaurant. And I was kind of interested in that kind of direction. But one of the friends of mine started going to drawing class. And drawing class. And I was wondering, why you learning drawing? And she said, learning drawing to enter art college. And art college, what is art college? And I didn't know much about, the school teaches art. Art, I thought art is just from yourself. But actually there's a school you can go in and then learn. And I said, do you think I can go to that school? So I followed her, and then I went into the class, and then I joined the class. And in the class, a lot of people who are already really good at drawing, doing a lot of life drawing mainly, and often they are into Osaka Art College or Kyoto Art College or some, kind of well-known college, which I didn't know anything about it. But I kind of fascinated by that process, so I started learning drawing, but I wasn't good at all because I've never formally learned this. I don't know how you say life drawing type of pencil drawing, and I always did a cartoon type of drawing beforehand, but that was a bit challenging. But I managed to get slightly better and better, and some stage teacher suggested us to make some clay model foot, your own foot, but make it with the clay. And then that process was I felt so good because it's so tactile, you're not using pencil and then, straight onto, flat surface. It's more three-dimensional, and I could touch beautifully. So I just, wasn't good, but I felt so nice. So I thought maybe I should learn ceramics. And that kind of changed my direction. But beforehand, I thought I want to be a painter because everyone was aiming the painting class, or how can I say, painting department, I guess. And somehow that little thing changed my direction. So I said to high school teacher, I'm going to, try to enter art college to do ceramics. But teacher said to me, you don't have enough credit. And that was a nearly game over thing. I didn't know. I knew I was doing really bad in terms of academic stuff, but I didn't know that credit affect to if you can try to do exam or not. So I couldn't even do exam. And I was kind of lost, but the teacher said, but if you are interested in doing caricature for what's called graduating newspaper, there's a just a little paper, but every year they do newspaper for the people who are graduating, and if you draw every teacher, it's just a little section, but about 10 teacher or 12 teacher, someone never, didn't need to deal with me, but I had to say yes. So I put a lot of effort, and I managed to make, every teacher nicely, and then I present that to teacher, and then said, okay, I'm going to change the number, credit. And I didn't ask if that was illegal or legal, but somehow he changed it. And then that's why I could try entering, exam. So, I'm still saying thank you to teacher all the time, But and after successfully entered the little college, art college, which is in Nara, which is where I come from. So this is a deer from Nara Park, and this is where I'm from. This is my house. My mom is still there, and river is just in front of. This is just the agricultural irrigation channel. This is always, have got some water flow, but especially the spring, before they plant rice, they release more water, and it's really beautiful water. It's a bit like having amazing, waterfall in front of your house, and you can hear the sound of water all the time at that particular period, spring to summer. Because in Japan, water farm often fill the water, so it's a bit like a swamp. So it's a different, probably, way to grow rice in Australia. So successfully entered College of Nara, College of Fine Art, which is originally just for 2 years learning ceramics, but I've done 4 years. And this is a friend of mine, just now became a teacher, working there. And at that time, teacher was interesting because I don't know if you've been to exhibition at art gallery called Pure Form. And Rusty made a beautiful exhibition, selecting beautiful Japanese ceramics, but most work is from group called Seoul Asia, which is, it was really after war, they iconic group, ceramic movement. Seoul Asia created quite, amazing, group of work, and became, one of the, biggest history in Japanese art, not just the ceramic art, but exhibition. You can probably tell, they are all very, very skillful, and they are trying something really, they never seen. So maybe some influence from European art, but it's all kind of, it's a bit like an American, pop art started emerging, kind of, power was in there. And my teacher was one of the students, of Kazuo Yagi. So Kazuo Yagi was almost the boss of Seoul Asia group. And he was always talking about Seoul Asia movement in our class. So people who never knew what art was, listening that kind of conversation, it can be, someone else. You just ended up absorbing everything, and you kind of become. Seoul Asia becomes rock star, and then you kind of want to be people like Seoul Asia. So that's how we kind of got a lot of energy from the university. So I had a lot of work, kind of try to mimic, or if you are a rock star, if you want to follow a rock star, you want to copy their music. It's a bit like that. So you really kind of exploring what they did, and that was an interesting learning process. And before, after I graduated art college, I said to my teacher, I'm going to be an artist. So he was kind of laughable because, art college, they're, teaching how to be an artist, I guess. But, when there's, when I had to fill the form about my plan, I said to, my future plan will be the artist. And then, the other student kind of started laughing at me, and then I thought, this school is meant to teach, how to become artist. And so at that time, teacher suggested some few options for the teaching job, because after school you have to kind of survive somehow. And then I said to teacher, I'm okay. I don't need any of it because I'm going to be an artist. So I graduated that college without setting up any work, because I wanted to set up a kiln and run a studio. So after graduation, I realized that I need a kiln, but I didn't realize I needed money. So I quickly thought about it, and then okay, I'm gonna get some job. So I decided to work for the archaeological site. Yeah, which is really interesting, job. But in Nara, it's pretty common. A lot of people, often retired people, also work for that kind of job. And wasn't many young people, but it's literally just hand digging process, because it's all delicate and you have to discover tiny thing as you dig. So it's almost like curving the landscape into a different era. It's kind of time traveling, by digging. And we were very lucky. We found a coffin, and which was unopened. This is already opened, but it was another rock was on top of it. So TV came and the professor opened the inside, and there was no organic matter, but you can see around the top you see the high foot vessel, which is very high-end product at that time. There's no glaze yet, but this is about 1,500 years ago, just before Nara became capital, I think. Nara was the first capital of Japan. But we found that inside of the coffin, we found silver button and beads, colorful beads, and some gold as well. And a sword, probably was copper, and so many ceramic pots. And some are baby coffin. It's a maybe coil build. It's a bit like a squashed watermelon, kind of really thin, delicate vessel, about this size, 40 centimeter diameter. And apparently that was the baby coffin. And then horse teeth, which is the strongest material, so didn't dissolve around in this kind of situation. So I was very, very fascinated about what we found. But at the same time, this is all, this is very special. Someone orchestrated to make, this coffin, very special. So they placed everything nicely organized. But around from here, about 50 meters away from it, there was a, when I was scraping the surface, we found a little fire pit, just a tiny, super tiny fire pit with a stone fruit seed in the middle, and then spear arrowhead was there. And I was more excited about this situation because, wow, there was a human around here. So someone actually ate some, plum and then just spit. And then, maybe they were maintaining the, tools around fire pit. And I thought, this is amazing, And this is when I thought, I realized my sense of time kind of became more broad. So that was the moment, maybe teenager from the adult kind of maturity came, hopefully. And that gave me a very strong stability of long-term thinking. So, if you want to make something, or if you want to become creator, it's quite difficult, if you have short-term thinking, because, especially for ceramics, I don't know if you make a lot of mistakes, but I make a lot of mistakes. And if I don't have long-term thinking, I can't do it. I can't keep doing this. So this experience gave me, very solid foundation internally. And so this is my studio. And this is actually pretty much next to where I was digging. I just found a nice house, so I just knocked the land owner, and then can I use that house? And then he said, yeah, you can use that house. And can I build a kiln room? And yes, you can build a kiln room. So we became very, very nice friends between each other. And suddenly he just, died some stage, but he gave me a lot of, amazing, he was very generous, and we became best friend. And I was very sad when he, passed away. And at that time, I was making a lot of work mainly for ceramic competition and exhibition, group exhibition, installation type of work, and some for I just mentioned about South Asia, and South Asia was gone at that time, but some of former South Asia decided to form new group called Shin Tocho. Shin means new, and To means ceramics, and Cho means sculpture. So Shin Tocho, and they annually exhibiting a large exhibition in Kyoto, because they kind of had access to use Kyoto Municipal Art Museum, which has huge floor space. And I was making a lot of installation using earthenware, coarse clay. I was really into kind of chunky coarse clay. But you see, this is all slab building technique. So I was still kind of using, slab building technique to kind of assemble, to make some three-dimensional stuff. And then sometimes I did coil building. This is made by coil building, but that was the main technique, slab building and coil building. And so I made a lot of non-porcelain kind of work when I was in Japan. And this is the artist, not in South Asia group, but the artist in Kyoto who is no longer, here. But Shin Fujihara is one of my favorite artists. So I just wanted to share his work. So he's interesting. He's always like that. He's walking around the town. He's a bit like a person from a picture book. And someday he came to the exhibition, the Shintocho exhibition, and then he came to me and then he said, "You're the best." and he's that kind of person. He's just quiet and very. He has his own kind of world around it. And as you see his work, you can kind of understand he kind of creates his own world, but you are already into his world as soon as you watch. And I think there is a museum in Higashiyama, Kyoto, Higashiyama. So I haven't been there yet, but next time I have to make sure visiting that place. And Tomimoto, Kenkich Tomimoto, who is born in Nara actually, but he's one of the well-known porcelain artists who taught ceramics in Tokyo University, Art University, and made this kind of very high-end, amazing porcelain. But as I said, I was into earthen, kind of coarse, earthy clay. I wasn't really interested in porcelain at that time, but when I went to his exhibition, I found some, slab-built piece, square one, and there was maybe fish picture, on glaze picture was on there. But I noticed that the slab building work was little kind of wobbly, wasn't super straight. And I said, I thought, that's very nice and that's beautiful. I don't know what it is, but before I saw that work, my image about porcelain was, rice bowl, mass production rice bowl, often made from Seto area. They do amazing, beautiful, fine product. But I've never, interested in closely enjoyed the porcelain product. I was interested in eating, so distracted by eating. But I realized that time his work kind of showed me some of, kind of fluidity. And that changed my mind a little bit. Just a little bit. And LeWitt, he's not Japanese. He's a USA, well-known artist who did a lot of mural painting and sculpture, repetitive pattern sculpture, and wall drawing, which is fascinating. So many same lines keeps going and going. And why I'm showing this is not random. I actually went to New York just before I moved to Australia because my friend said, who moved to New York, said, come to New York, and you have a look at New York. So I said, okay, I'm going to New York. So I wasn't expecting anything, but I just went there, and she happened to be in a studio, printing studio, working, helping. Who Japanese owner was running, guy called Joe, and he was actually originally from performance background. So he was in a kind of American art scene, but doing performance. But somehow he got connection between LeWitt, and LeWitt said to Joe, "Do you want to run, printing studio for me?" So that's why he started running huge printing studio. So one day I opened the door, and Brooklyn, New York, there's a big space, with the Japanese people and some Brazilian people working and printing in a huge place, and everyone was talking about Seoul, because he always send the fax or information about next product or mural project. He does interesting drawing and send that drawing through fax, and then they have to go to the museum, and then often those teams do the pencil drawing or this kind of color, mural, colorful new mural. And I only spent 1 week in that studio. I didn't do sightseeing, except one day I went to the Deer Beacon, which is amazing museum in New York, and obviously that museum had his work as well. So except that day, I was constantly just watching them working as well. At the same time, I did. Joe said you can try, copper printing. So I've done copper printing, and then just came home. So, my brain became LeWitt straight away. And when I was teaching ceramics in Japan, in that studio, some people from overseas started coming, and I met nice Australian lady called Sonia, who is just up there. Decided to go back to Australia. She was working for municipal office in Nara, and the visa was running out, so she had to go home. And I decided to follow, but not at the same time. I had to kind of pack up my studio, so I I had to stay 1 year longer and pack up and then move to Australia. So Sonia was a very organized person, very different to me. Meantime, she went to the Fusions Gallery, which is no longer there in Brisbane, but Stephanie Outreach Field was running for that space. And Sonia said, "Hi, some Japanese people coming to Australia, can he have a show?" And then she said, "Yes, and okay, I'm gonna invite Shoji Mitsuo as well." So literally first week of my Japanese life in Australia, Mitsuo, Shoji, and me are having a show. And that was unbelievable experience. I was very nervous because I didn't know anyone and I didn't know the ceramics scene, but Shoji kind of showed me how he lived and taught me, how to be, I think, yourself. So after that exhibition, I just wanted to keep making ceramics. So luckily, behind the building, Fusions Gallery, there was a shed, hiring studio, very old, kind of tin roof. Summer it can be pretty challenging, but that studio was available. So I hired that space, and in the same space, Mel Robson was there. And I don't know if you know her, but Mel Robson is now in Alice Springs making beautiful work. But at that time, she was making amazing, tableware, using deco, and I said to her, or maybe she said to me, why don't you use porcelain? And I wasn't sure what kind of clay suits me, because I wanted to change a little bit after I made a lot of work in Japan. I thought that was a good chance to change, but porcelain wasn't in my head. But she said, "Why don't you use porcelain?" And I said, "Yeah, maybe I should." So not just Tomimoto Kenkichi, but Mel just suggested that, and then immediately I went and buy porcelain clay, and I did a lot of slab building. I don't know why I just kept using this technique, but I think this is probably from my childhood, life in my primary school, and as you see, I explored all different shapes, squarish one, circular shape, and it was technically really hard to achieve, but as I learned, I slowly got better and better, and then became more comfortable. But I'm still using same techniques today, but success ratio never be higher than, I don't know, maybe 50. I make a lot of backups, and tried this kind of circular form. And I often try to kind of connect to the nature or surrounding environment. So this is not my work, but kind of my work, isn't it? I mean, my two boys, and Sonia is next to it. And so I tried a lot of slab building technique, but I think after 10 years, this is talking about 2014 now, I moved to Australia 2004, so this is 10 years after. I was kind of getting hungry to learn something different, and I became recipient for the Asia Link Artist Residency founded by Arts Queensland, and I decided to go to Arita, which is the oldest porcelain town, famous porcelain town, and they make amazing high-end porcelain. And I met nice people, really, really nice people. But one of the amazing people who I met is a Mr. Mold Maker and Master Mold Maker, Yamaguchi-san, Mr. Yamaguchi. And why I met him was because I was kind of interested in learning production, mass production. So maybe I can make, doing some mass production to do some business, I guess. And that doesn't sound like me at all, but he probably knew. When I went to his space, I brought some design. Can you make this design, please? And he was interested in my design and started having nice chat about how I think about this design and how he think about this design. And he started saying, do you want to learn how to make plaster mold or how to make model? And I thought, that's strange. I was here to kind of order, what's called, commission, so he can make stuff. But I said yes, and he invited me to his studio when, no one was there. Sunday afternoon, he invited me into his studio and started showing me how to mix the plaster, and that's very simple. And I think everyone, probably most of people here, know or you've seen it. But for me, I've done, porcelain, plaster making, sometime. But after I saw just his action and how to scoop the plaster, put it into water, and I thought, something different. This is amazing, something odd. And the sound, rhythm was completely kind of made me, I've never seen this like, anything like this kind of. And I was kind of drawn to that process really quickly and spectacularly. So he showed me how to carve plaster and gave me a knife, Japanese craft knife as well. So after I had amazing experience in Arita, I had another nice person, Kirsten Coelho was in Arita as well. So we've done tour of what's called visiting a lot of different local ceramic artists as well. I can't see her, but too bright. We knocked door and can we have a look at your studio? And often people are very nice, very welcoming. But I wasn't, if I were by myself, I don't think they're that kind. But with Kirsten Coelho, hello, this is Kirsten Coelho from Australia. Can we have a look at your studio? So they make tea straight away. So thank you, Kirsten. So, as you see, that slab building work was pretty much only technique I was doing. But straight after I came back to Australia, I just kept curving plaster and mixing plaster and slowly kind of found a form to assemble. So I started making a lot of work which is required, making a model first, carving plaster, but still wanted to put together. So it's a bit like a Lego. If you make one piece, you can connect to each other. And that kind of idea was in my head. And I made a lot of things, a model you can connect to each other to make one form. And this is a recent example. There is a slab building work and slip casting work next to each other. And yeah, this is also another example of, I decided to put more small work in between. And this is for the portrait prize. I used two different form into one shape. So some are kind of poking out, some are not. And thinking of myself, Japanese, how can I say, Japanese, and also me living in Australia. It's kind of two different character is always kind of talking to each other, and I wanted to use that this technique to show, how I'm kind of living internally. And this is most recent work, one of the most recent work for the Powerhouse Museum. I don't know if you've seen that exhibition, which is, amazing selection of work in that show. And this is actually dismantleable work. So it's just sitting next to each other, leaning on top of each other almost. And if you take one out, it'll collapse. And I like the idea of the, fragility. And at the same time, if you are, helping each other, it stays. And also, I'm very, interested in imagining, how the human's memory works, and how can we storing the memory, good memory. And this is kind of the way I'm pretending this is as a film. If you put the film as a circle, same image just keeps looping, and it's kind of a way to store my memory. And also, most recent work for the 60th Journal of Australian Ceramics, 60th anniversary, still touring. It's going to be for 4 years, and I started using same idea for using different form, and I'm still, discovering new form from it. And I usually don't plan. My first initial drawing is like just a random silhouette. So carving process is most important thing, the process, because that's when I'm really talking to the material, and I'm just looking at it and I keep carving, and so that process is very important, and I really love carving. So if you love to have some relaxing moment, please carve the plaster. It's so relaxing. And I just wanted to explain some of work I've done for public art. So this is another slip casting, but I had opportunity to make some hanging object, and it was outside public art. So outside, so material had to be durable. So I used aluminium to make body, and I just attached the porcelain onto that aluminium sculpture. So you can see some diamond shape is on aluminium sculpture. So this is kind of from Arita experience. I'm still using that knowledge to not just studio ceramics, but at the same time public art kind of scale as well. So this is in Brisbane, some residential building near foyer outside. But this is one of the old one, 2009 I think, in 400 George Street. I've done some rectangle, slab built porcelain about that big. So it's all kind of warped, nicely warped, and I love the warped effect. Yeah. And Ipswich Courthouse. And Queensland Police Memorial. I've done some collaboration design process with the UAP, which is a company in Brisbane. I think maybe Victoria have got office as well. They do a lot of public art, and I've done this design actually using original design. I used the paper to just fold that shape. And imagine, me as a primary school kid doing paper, and me now doing exactly the same technique, imagining different shape. And I realized that I'm still doing the same. Nothing has changed in beautiful way, I guess. And this is one of the more kind of big one along the Brisbane River, Kingsford Smith Road. There's 10 of them standing in a different color. Some are pink, yellow, green, blue. So if you come to Brisbane, please have a look at those, work. And quickly, this is the last one. I thought you guys gonna eat, here, but no one eating. Yeah, I was waiting what kind of smell will pop up. But this is most recent work that I've done for the Skips Gallery in Victoria. So if you have friend in Victoria, please let your friend know. I'm having little group exhibition in Victoria, and this is waterfall series. And I love imagining how water behave, and often imagining how people behave and water behave. How can we be like nice to each other kind of thing, and at the same time imagining that little dam in front of my house. Yeah. That's it. This is it. Thank you so much.